Welcome to the Outdoor Muscle Show, where we discuss endurance, strength, adventure, and everything in between. My guest today is Sam at Trihardergal on Instagram. Sam is an amateur triathlete training for her first Ironman. After missing the cutoff time to finish her first half Ironman, Sam didn't quit. Instead, she used that experience as fuel to start training for double the distance. We talk about how Sam got into triathlon and how she's adjusted her training to not only complete a full Ironman this year, but the Escape from Alcatraz triathlon and an Ironman 70.3. And then we wrap up with her advice for others thinking about getting into the sport of triathlon. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to never miss an update. Now, on to the show. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Looking forward to our conversation. I wanted to start off by asking you, what made you get into triathlons?
So it's a bit of a long story. I got into triathlon because I got invited by two other athletes / friends to do a triathlon relay. It was it was an Olympic distance and I was the runner. And they invited me to be the runner on the team. And when I went on race day, I was so sad seeing swimmers getting out of the water, cyclists racking their bikes to start the run. And the night of that triathlon, I went and signed up for the same triathlon, but a shorter distance. And I started training for it. So I had a year. So yeah, that's how I got into it. I just was super jealous of everyone who was doing the full Olympic distance.
So I've never known anyone who's done a relay. So I assume it's like you have three people and
Yes.
one person does each kind of event.
Yeah. So we had a swimmer, we had a cyclist, and I was the runner.
Gotcha.
We tag each other to and give the time chip to each other.
That's cool. I've never seen that before. That'd be fun to try.
It's a pretty cool way to get used to, or not get you, to get introduced to triathlons.
And it probably makes it a little easier because you're not having to mess with the transitions like your first go. Like you kind of get to see it, but it's not something you have to really worry about. Like you're just waiting for them to hand you the chip and then you take off running, right?
Exactly. The waiting is hard though, because now you're like, for example, if the swimmer took an hour, depends on the distance, you're sitting right there in the transition area waiting for them to come back. And if you're the runner like myself, I waited for the swimmer and the cyclist, and then I started running. So that was a little bit tough, the waiting. But I mean, you can get to it, get used to it, I guess, or like figure out how to spend time and enjoy your time without getting tired.
So where did you go from there? Walk us through the journey of where you're at now.
So my first ever triathlon was the relay one, and then I did a super sprint a sprint. After that, did a super sprint and then signed up for a half Ironman. Not the smartest way to do triathlon or to progress through triathlon. One thing I noticed when I did the sprint and the super sprint is that I didn't train as much as I should have. Mm-hmm. Yet I enjoyed my time, yet I finished, and I thought like, okay, I'm like selling myself short. Let's just shoot higher. And that's how I skipped the Olympic, like doing a full Olympic by myself and went to, I wouldn't advise people to do that. I wish I would have done an Olympic, but I thought like, just go for it. I trained for it. And that's my triathlon experience, basically. Total is the relay, the sprint and super sprint, and then the Santa Cruz. But obviously Santa Cruz, I didn't do the run, so I did hit cutoff. So it was a tough mental experience afterwards.
Yes, and I definitely want to get into that, but I do have a question now, just hearing how you went from the relay to Santa Cruz. Did you already know how to swim and cycle, or were those aspects new to you?
Yeah, so I had a bike, but it's a commuter bike, like flat handlebars, just for fun. I would take it through the city. At some point, my husband and I moved more in the suburbs, so I would take it, and I had access to Pacific Coast Highway, and so I would take it there. The longest I rode my bike was like 20 miles just for fun. From swimming perspective, I'm not a fan of pools. Yeah. So my swimming experience is open water, and it's not swimming. It's just enjoying my time in open water. I took some surfing lessons, and part of surfing, I noticed that I wasn't comfortable in open water at all. Like I was like, not sure if I can survive if I don't have like a flotation device or something. Right. My background is like when I was younger is like my parents didn't want to worry about us. So they just put a life jacket or whatever we call it, like a life vest on us. And like go have fun. And
Yeah.
we did, and I did. And like I'm not scared of water if I have a flotation device. So that's my original background.
Mhm.
And so when I started, I wanted to learn how to surf. When I started doing that, I realized I'm actually scared of the ocean. Like not scared. I mean, yeah, scared is the appropriate word. And so
Mhm.
I took like ocean confidence lessons
Uh,
with like a ex lifeguard, like open water lifeguard, which are very different than a pool lifeguard. And that made me so confident in open water. And my first two triathlons, I actually did not use a pool at all my swims where I'm going to join a group, hire a swim instructor and ask them to just join me on my swim. And that's literally what I did. I would go to the ocean, ask them to meet me. And what I tell them is just keep me safe. If I needed help, just help me. And I have my wetsuit on and I would swim to a buoy. I know where the buoy is. It's 300-meter in or 400-meter, depends on the distance. So I think there was 300-meter, the first one. And then the second one was 800. No swim form. Not proud of what I did, but no swim form. I
yeah.
knew how to survive. I know how to move forward. And so that's why it was hard when I did the Santa Cruz, when I started training, is that I needed to start from the beginning, like how to have swim technique, how to have swim form. It's not about survival. It's not about floating and moving forward. It's about like how to be more efficient. So you can actually finish the 1.2 miles, which I did in Santa Cruz. And I actually did a race, a 1 mile race in Santa Cruz as well, around the same wharf, under an hour. So that was a good confident booster before Santa Cruz. So yeah.
What was kind of the biggest takeaway from Santa Cruz?
Train more. So one thing I think I should have trained more. Not everybody. Like I was hearing all those stories, like, oh, I went to a 70.3 without training.
Yeah.
Great, amazing. But not everyone can do that. Not everyone has that. I'm a very safety first, careful athlete.
Mhm.
So I'm not someone who's like, oh, I'm gonna take that much, like a lot of pre-workout and like just push. And there's a saying, it's a lot of athletes, not a lot. Some athletes say like, oh, PR or ER.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah. I haven't
there
heard.
are a lot. I mean, someone with that mentality is someone who can go to a 70.3 and actually finish it without training. But I mean, obviously they damage their muscles. You know that obviously more than
Yeah,
me.
it's not the way you want
Um,
to do that.
yeah, so I'm not that type of athlete. So I know my limit. I usually operate like whenever I do any workout, which is actually limiting me now that I'm working with my current coach on fixing that. I always operate at 80% and below. I
Mhm.
don't go above 80%. And I think that's why I didn't hit the cutoffs in Santa Cruz because I didn't want to operate above 80 in like any of the like in the swim. I was so comfortable. Like I got out of the swim. It was like I was able to hop on the bike. I finished the bike. I was ready to run if they let me keep the
Yeah.
trip. And I realized like if I still have that much energy, this means I'm not pushing. So it's something I think that's the biggest takeaway is learning how to push within safety limits and train. And if you're not comfortable getting that, like doing that push without training for it, just train more. And so that's my advice to myself. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm just training more to be able to operate still at 80%, but actually hit the cutoffs.
So we're both doing Ironman California, and I've been following your training progression. Would you say, like in that same vein of training more, that you're just really increasing volume, but like intensity staying the same, or are you working in different types of workouts than you did previously, or what else is different now about prepping for a full Ironman versus the half?
I think the biggest thing is training more and training correctly.
Mhm.
So my attitude when I was training for Santa Cruz was just hit the workout. Just do it. It's an hour, just do the hour.
Yeah.
Um, and it's not that simple. It's you need to 90% of the time to do your workouts correctly. So if it's a high intensity, do the high intensity. If it's a easy run, easy bike, do it easy. And I think one thing I'm doing differently now is I'm working with a coach. So my coach is an Ironman certified coach.
Mhm.
And I'm basically offloading that mental workload that I had to figure out like, oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Googling a lot of things, figuring out things on my own. I read a book about triathlon training as well. I'm offloading all that to him and just trusting the process. And I can see now, like even when we meet, he explains to me like, why is this workout this way? And why do we have these different workouts within the week? And now I can see what I did wrong in Santa Cruz. It's not volume
Yeah.
only. It's volume and the type of workouts as well. It's training different type of muscles. It's training you mentally as well. And so, just hitting the volume is might be enough for some, but not for beginners athlete, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree. And I've seen that a lot, and I've experienced both ends of that spectrum where my issue, like starting out, like when I was first starting, was I would go full 100% every workout all the time. And then I was constantly injured, overtrained, and everything else. So then I went the opposite way, kind of like you were saying at Santa Cruz. Like I didn't push myself enough. Like there was still way more left in the tank. And then I went through like my own coaching certifications and stuff years ago and kind of learned through trial and error myself before working with others. And I see that all the time. You really get like those two personalities, like when you're trying to figure it out on their own, especially if they're like type A, like hard workers, they almost push too hard, or they're just concerned, like, because they want to make it to the end, they don't push hard enough. So it is to your point about getting a coach and kind of offloading some of that. It can definitely help, and then you can really just focus on the training aspect. What do you think has kind of just been the steepest learning curve for all of this? I know for me, I'll just say for me real quick, it has been the swimming, 100%. Like you, like my swimming was basically just not drowning. It is, I am swimming so much more than the other disciplines. Like I'm hoping things start to connect sooner, but they just haven't yet. So I'm wondering if you've experienced anything similar with swimming or otherwise.
Yeah, swimming definitely was the highest learning curve. I think the most technical is swimming, so it's fair. I don't think if you don't have like an athletics swimming background, I think that's going to be the toughest for any athlete, and it's been the toughest for me. I think the advantage I have is that I don't have this fear of open water, or I do, but I worked on it, and so it's been a journey. It's a lot of work, and I'm still working on it. And but it's a sport that I love, so I don't mind spending time on it. It's time consuming too,
Yeah.
more than the other ones. Cycling is also a little bit technical, and it's I thought it's going to be one of the easy ones. I love running, so I never thought about it as a hard thing. That's good, but cycling as well, just getting the hang of like everything you need, like the different type of bikes,
Yeah.
how to like even understanding power. Obviously, when I cycled, I was just cycling leisurely. So I didn't care how long it's going to take me to get to the end of to get to my destination. I never thought about these things. And I also never thought about like my bike fit. All these things were also time consuming and expensive. The most expensive sport in the three is cycling. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could spend more on a bike than you could on a car if you really wanted to.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Did you do a professional bike fit like right off the bat, or is that something you did later?
I did two bike fits so far. So the two bikes I have, I've done bike fits for them. The first bike fit I did, I actually didn't know what a bike fit is. I'm someone who takes negative comments take a positive spin on it.
Uh-huh.
So what pushed me to do a bike fit was comments I got on my posts on social media. And so I would post myself cycling for a few seconds, and I get someone saying like, get a bike fit, get a bike fit.
Yeah.
And like, maybe they have some, maybe they're right. And so that's when I went in and like figured out. I was in a tri club at the time, and I asked them, where can I get a bike fit? And so that's what triggered me to get a bike fit, because people kept commenting, not many, but people kept commenting on my cycling post saying, get a bike fit.
I did the same thing. They're like, your seat is way too low. You need to get a bike fit. And I'm like, okay, guess I gotta
Yeah.
get the bike fit.
And sometimes they're right and sometimes they're wrong, by the way.
Yeah,
And so
right.
I've got your seat is too low, went to the bike fit. They said like, no, it's perfect for you. And I'm like, okay. So, but I mean, you can always get the positive or like try to get something positive from those comments, and they're not super rude. So that's fine.
Right. Yeah. What do you wish you knew back then that you know now? Like if you could go back and tell beginner Sam, like you need to do this, like this is the main thing that you need to focus on, or
Yeah. I think understanding more the purpose of the workout, and maybe read more. Like if you're not willing to hire a coach, which I highly suggest at this, after my experience, and I don't regret at all. I'm proud of how I got myself where I am. Very proud of it, actually.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, like if not finishing or not hitting your goal is going to hurt your feelings so much, get a coach. But I still don't regret it though. But going back, if you can hire a coach, work with a coach, do that. And if you're not, just when you have a training plan, there are so many great training plans. I think I love the training plan I followed on my own.
Yeah.
And just dive more into why is this workout is there. Understand the workout more, and don't always think like it's the time you spent. Like, oh, if it's an hour, I spent an hour, I went hard enough, that sort of thing. The structure of the workout has a purpose. And I knew that, but I didn't know how impactful it is. I thought it's impactful for me to get a better time, not
Yeah.
to finish. And like, sorry, I'll say something else as well. Don't shoot to finish. That is a recipe for not finishing. I think that's the mistake I've done in Santa Cruz, is that I was like, yeah, I can finish in 8.5 hours. That's no problem. And I would have been able to finish in 8.5 hours, but cutoffs are not designed this way. Like the swim, for example, a lot of people go over the allocated time because the boat at the end that basically picks up people who didn't finish the swim, if it didn't hit you, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Right. So that sort of thing. So, but this actually creates a lot of mental load on you, like even within the race, that someone is behind you. And at any point they're going to tell you to stop. It's not a fun feeling at all. So that's why I say don't train to finish, train to be in the middle. I think that's a big lesson for me. I've been always in like all the triathlons, the smaller ones I've been to. They were fun triathlons. The whole family goes, everybody on like even mountain bikes, no problem. And so I never got that feeling. And I was always in the middle, even with minimal training. But Ironman races are different. Like everybody is kind of serious about it. To be in the middle is not that easy. You have to train more. You have to train smart. And so shooting to finish is not a good goal, even though there are like training plans for that. Shoot for the training plan that it's helping you get a better time. That way, if something went wrong, you'll finish, because a lot of things go wrong. So the Santa Cruz, whether it became choppy, especially if you're not on the faster side, you start hitting like weather things, right? Like, so in the swim, water became so choppy at the end. At the end of the swim, there were like rip currents as well, because I felt like I'm not moving forward at all. Like I looked at my pace and I can see like I went from like 2:20 to 2:30 to at the end, that part to go to the finish of the swim, it was like 5 something pace.
Yeah.
And there's no other explanation to that, unless other than like maybe there was rip current at the time. But you can, I mean, when you have enough time, or like enough deficit from cutoffs, you can like basically plan for those things.
Right.
Plan for a flat in your bike. Plan for anything that might happen. Right. Going to the restroom. You can plan for all those things if you have enough time and you train to be fast enough to plan for these, and shoot to be in the middle or the end of the middle, not the tail of the athletes or the race. So,
Did you practice transitions at all, or do you intend to practice your transitions? Because
yeah.
that's time consuming, right?
So I think participating in the triathlon rally with my friends, I spent a lot of time in the transition area. So it was kind of engraved in even before doing a triathlon, it was engraved in my head. Like, I've watched athletes take off their wetsuits. I watched athletes take their bikes. I saw all those bikes lined up with like how they put their nutrition on it. And like, even at the time I wasn't a triathlete, but it was an amazing learning experience to watch the athletes, how they transition basically. And obviously before Santa Cruz, I did the 2 sprints. So I take a little bit of time in my transition, but I know what to do. I just need to optimize it, if that makes sense. And I think I optimized it in Santa Cruz because I knew how to lay my things, how to lay them, which order, that sort of thing. And like, my running belt is ready. Like, everything is grab and go, instead of like in my first 2 triathlons, I was like, oh, I'm going to eat this my fuel in the transition. That's not a good idea. Always make sure you have fuel that you can actually, or like nutrition that you can do on the go instead of you needing to stand in. And so it's a learning curve, and the smaller or the shorter triathlons or the beginning, the triathlons you do at the beginning would help a lot. So obviously I'll continue training for it, especially taking off the wetsuit. How can you optimize that?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
an art.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great information. Tell us a little bit about the other races you have coming up this year.
Oh my goodness. I overcommitted in 2025. And the first one I'm doing is in April, first week of April, 70.3 Texas in Galveston. And that's the one I'm training for right now. And I'm training to get for a specific time instead of finishing. So with my coach, we have like, obviously it's not that easy to predict your time, but we're training for a specific time instead of just finishing. And then the second one is Escape from Alcatraz. It's a very famous triathlon in the Bay Area or San Francisco. And that one, the swim for that one is pretty tough. It's the toughest of even it's even tougher than the full Ironman swim that I'm going to. It is tougher than Santa Cruz, so I'm a little bit anxious about that and need to start training for it. The good news is I live in San Francisco, and there are a lot of open water swim groups here, so I'm planning to go out and do the swim before the race a couple of times, hopefully, and this is where I typically do my open water swim. It's not in the bay. In the bay, it's in a protected area, but it's easy for me to join groups that goes in the bay. And the last one is the full Ironman, the same one you're signed up for. And it's I think I overcommitted. Life is short.
Marathon in Cairo, right?
Oh, that was in December. Yeah.
Oh, that was December. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
There's a full or a half?
The half marathon, the one in the pyramids in Cairo, that was a half marathon.
Okay.
And I was usually that was like, I didn't have a time goal. I love running. I'm not a fast runner, but I love running.
Yeah.
So if there's a half marathon that it's in a cool location, I would just go and run. Like I don't count these, so I might do a few half marathons for sure, but I usually don't train specifically for them. Like all the 3 half marathons I did in 2024, I actually didn't train specifically for them. I would just do my Ironman training and just go to the run. I PR'd actually one of those half marathons, but yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, the Egypt one looked really cool.
Yeah, I didn't PR that one, but I mean, kind of the word PR is a bit of a tough word to throw around easily because every course I ran for half marathons are different. So San Francisco, I did 2 half marathons in San Francisco, and it's pretty tough, like elevation gain. I can't remember the exact one, but like it's much higher elevation gain. In the pyramids one, there was elevation gain, but it's not as high as San Francisco. So yeah, it's fun. And running around an iconic location is always fun. Even I live in San Francisco, so but it's still iconic to run on the bridge.
Yeah, it makes it fun, right? It's like it's enjoyable when you actually have nice scenery that you're running through.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay. Well, before we wrap up here, what is some advice you have for anyone who's considering getting into triathlons or any endurance sport really, but maybe they don't have the experience and they're still just kind of on the fence?
If they're interested in it and they want to know if they're interested or not, I think relay is a good idea because you get a lot of information by being there, and just pick the sport you like and do it. And then see if you like it. And if you felt the same way I felt, was super, super jealous of everyone who was doing the whole distance.
You're going to end up doing an Ironman.
No, listen, I mean, I didn't go right away to an Ironman. I did a sprint and a super sprint. Yeah. I mean, close enough. And then after that, do a sprint. Sprints are pretty cool. They're short. I think the first one I did was like 300-meter or 400-meter swim. It was like a 10-mile bike and then a 2-mile run. And believe it or not, that was tough for me at the time. That was like
that's still a lot.
2 years ago, maybe. And so try these shorter ones, very beginner friendly. You get an idea of like how you feel about like open water. Tried one thing as well is that I love the ocean, but I think a swim like a river or like a lake might be a little bit easier. So don't go for an ocean swim right away unless you love the ocean and you're comfortable in it, because you have to. So in my two sprints, the sprint and the super sprint, there were like one of them was in Malibu, and so the surf was like 4 feet, but I've learned how to duck dive from my surfing lessons, and so that's why it didn't intimidate me, even though I wasn't a strong swimmer. But I know how to pass a weight, if that makes sense, or like yeah. And so that would be one thing, is to go to a shorter distance triathlon and try it out, and if you like it, just keep going up in distances, and depends on obviously your availability to train and things like that. So.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. I think starting off slow or starting off with something smaller, see if you like it. And then if you do, just go for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's no harm of going big if you have the time, but I think my big advice would be train for it, because even if you can do it, you're not doing your body a favor.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Well, Sam, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to learn more about you and to follow your journey?
Well, it's where we met, which is my account, Trihardergal on Instagram. And yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. And I've been following you since you were posting about trucking. So, which it was super interesting. And yeah, I'm excited to meet you in person in California, in Ironman California. And I hope we both crush it.
Yes, I know we will. Sam, thanks for coming on the show. My guest today was amateur triathlete Sam, and you can follow her triathlon journey on Instagram at Trihardergal. Also, check out our show notes at outdoormusclefit.com/podcast, and that wraps up the first episode of the Outdoor Muscle Show. Make sure to check out the website at outdoormusclefit.com and check out our new free course, Intro to Kettlebell for Runners. You can sign up at outdoormusclefit.com/courses. It's a great way to support what we do at Outdoor Muscle. Until next time, this is Coach Buck reminding you to put what you learned into action so you can live a more adventurous life.